legible and clear. So the last page has one piece that's kind of dark, but you may have to mark some colors. All right, so IEW, you will hear that thrown around a lot. That is just, it stands for the Institute for Excellence in Writing. And it is a great program that we have used since the school began. And we just find one of the benefits of it is it quantifies things. So if you remember being in high school English or college English and your teacher would give it back to you and say, I need more support or description. And you're like, I told you what I knew. Like, what do you mean? So this quantifies, it gives names, and it'll say like, give me 3, dress ups, or 3, so it quantifies. So especially for that kid that may be more math and science brained instead of the humanities brain, it's really helpful because they can see, I've got this, or I need 2 more of these, and that sort of thing. It is a great program to work both sides of the brain. So we really enjoy it and find that it builds great readers. So structure, it's just giving a toolbox for our kiddos so that they have words that they understand, common language among the teachers when they're saying a dress up or a sentence starter or things like that. So that is just helpful with the consistency. And there's 3 parts, and we're going to talk about them today. The first one is called a keyword outline. Okay, and you're going to learn about that in just a minute, what that is. It looks different than the outlines that we made in high school or college or whatever. So we're going to teach you that. And then the second piece is what we call dress-ups and sentence starters. Okay, and so the kids will be taught these along the way, and then they'll be expected to use them in their writing, and they'll be given a quantity of how many they need per paragraph. Okay, so you'll hear about that. And then revision. One of the hardest things I think as a parent when it comes to homeschooling or partnering with a teacher is, how much do I help my child? When they're just like, I don't know what to say. It's easy for us to say, well, say this, write this, that sort of thing. How do we partner so that the teacher can know what your child needs support with, because they're not able to pull it up on their own, and but yet you're still co-teaching. You're still part of that. So we're going to train you in that today as well. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Miller. She's our one of our third grade teachers, and she's going to talk to you guys about keyword outlines.
It's great that you're here this early in the morning doing IEW with us. We don't even ask our students to do IEW this early in the morning, so you rock. So keyword outlines is the first part of the IEW process that the students will be introduced to. They'll have a source text or a basic paragraph from which to work, and we'll hand them a KWO, keyword outline. The keyword outline really helps, as Mrs. Pistotnik said, help them organize their thoughts. So many times when we ask students randomly just to start writing, we'll get, I don't know what to write about, I don't know how to start. So this really helps them pull out what's important from what they're reading, organize their thoughts, and then be able to create their own paragraph. And we tell them we also do this because we don't want them to accidentally, especially at the young age, plagiarize something else. So we want them to be able to pull out what's important, organize it, and then put it into their own words in a paragraph. So let's walk through a KWO, or a keyword outline, together. So there are some rules that we have for KWOs that help the students navigate. First, we're going to look at a specific paragraph or passage. In 3rd grade, we make sure that the paragraphs that we give them as their source text are 6 sentences long only. The only deviation from that is when we get to the end of the year and they're working on their historical figure project, we bump it up to 7. But in 3rd grade, we keep it very clear, very organized for them, so they start to learn the mechanics without having to worry about the rest of the structure. As they're reading that source paragraph, they're going to decide on keywords and determine which of those words within the sentences are important, which ones they're going to write, which ones they may use a symbol or a picture, or perhaps a number, and we'll go over how that works as well. The teacher, yes, we do give the rules, and those stay the same all year, and they go all the way through the elementary up into middle school and high school as well. So we're in 3rd grade, we're giving them that really strong basis, and then they'll continue to build on that. Guidelines for the KWO. You have a KWO in your packet that looks like this. It has a paragraph here about sea turtles. The Roman numeral 1 at the top of that is always used as the title for their paragraph. Then you'll notice that there are 6 numbers after that. Those each correspond with one of the sentences within the paragraph. Each line, not including the Roman numeral, but numbers 1 through 6, each one of those lines, students are allowed to write 3 words, 3 key words. Sometimes sentences have more keywords, and so they're wondering which they should choose. So in addition to those 3 keywords, they're allowed to use symbols. Those are considered freebies. They may use numbers. For example, if there's a date in the sentence or a population number, they can use numbers on that line for free. They can also use abbreviations. So if we're reading a paragraph perhaps about the United States of America, and they've already put 3 keywords down already, they can shorten that to USA, and that is considered a freebie. So we're looking at 3 keywords, as well as pictures, symbols, and numbers, and abbreviations. Every time they write something on that line, they need to separate each entry with a comma. Just keeps it organized. As we work through a paragraph today, we'll be working on sentence number 1 and 2, and then we're going to skip the rest because those are basically repetitive, and jump down to number 6, and then talk about what a topic clincher is. The topic sentence has to match that clincher sentence, which is the very last one of the paragraph. Then once the KWO is complete, we ask the students to put the the source paragraph aside, look at the KWO, and start to talk through that to make sure that they've understood what they put on that KWO. So now that we've covered all of those, let's go look at a paragraph together. So you have this in your handout about sea turtles. I'm just going to read through it really quick so we get an idea, and this is what we'll do with students. We'll read through the paragraph together so they have an idea about what the entire paragraph is about. So Georgia is the summer home for several fascinating species of sea turtles. The loggerhead is the most common. They spend the cold months in the tropics. In late spring, they travel to Georgia. During the summer, they mate. Sea turtle enthusiasts work to preserve these fascinating creatures. So again, Roman numeral 1, we're going to start that KWO, is the title. Some students prefer to write a title straight away just to keep their thoughts in order. Other students prefer to work through the paragraph and then go back and write their title. Sometimes if they write their title first, they'll go through the KWO and go back and maybe revise their title. So that's a little bit flexible, but just for continuity's sake, let's go ahead and put a title. So what could we write as a title for this paragraph? Sea turtles. Let's just put sea turtles down on Roman numeral 1. And now let's go to number 1, line number 1, and we're going to look at line number 1 and correspond that with the very first line in that paragraph. Georgia is the summer home for several fascinating species of sea turtles. Now that's a pretty long sentence, but what I'd like you to try now is look at that sentence and circle all of the important words that you see. Just all of them, not just 3, circle all the important words. Now can some of you share some of those important words that you've circled?
Georgia, several sea turtles.
Very good. Now, how many keywords are they allowed to write on the line though? Only 3. So all of those extra words, we need to look and say, okay, are some of those words more conducive to drawing a picture? For example, the word home. A lot of the students might draw just a little simple house. Again, this isn't an art project, so we don't want them to turn it into a bunch of cutesy pictures, but we just want them to draw something simple that they'll remember what that looks like. So maybe for home, we'll just draw a quick little home instead of writing the word. So maybe put a little check mark by that one because we're going to check that one off, that we're not writing the word, but we're going to make that a picture. I also noticed the word Georgia is in there. What could we do with Georgia to create a freebie? GA. Oh, you're already ahead of the game on the abbreviations. We're learning this year too. So GA. So Georgia, I just put a little tick mark over Georgia because that can be covered with an abbreviation. So from what we've done, what are the 3 keywords that we probably should be writing on that line? What would work best? Okay, so we could put species. Sea turtles, actually sea turtles is going to be one. Even though it's 2 words, it's talking about one entity of something. So sea turtles can be considered one. So we could have species, sea turtles. We could do summer, sure. And then maybe after the word summer, we're gonna draw that little house. We're gonna make sure we put GA for Georgia. And then the other smaller words like is, the, of, those are not important words or keywords, so we're not going to include any of that. Okay. All right, let's jump down to sentence number 2. The loggerhead is the most common. This is a lot easier. Keywords, loggerhead, common. And because this is such a short sentence, there may only be 2 keywords, and that's okay. We try to get them to use 3, but in some instances, there just aren't. So we'll just do 2 keywords for that sentence. Or maybe some of the students might want to put the word most, so they remember what common is, or what they're talking about in terms of common. So I want to pause here for a moment. Do you have any questions up to this point about choosing those key words or how to write them?
Do they have to be in the same order as the sentence?
Not necessarily, because it needs to make sense to them. So if it makes sense to them to put them in the right order, yes. But as they develop in their writing, they may end up switching some of the words around anyway. But if it's helpful for them to put them in order so they remember, then sure. And also please remember to put commas between all of your words, symbols, and numbers. Any other questions before we jump down to sentence number 6?
Will students maybe have different keywords? I mean, so there's not necessarily like a right and a wrong, it's just what's right for that student.
Correct. What's going to help them really remember what that paragraph's about? Yes, good point. And some might choose to write the keywords, some may choose to use a picture for one of the keywords. So they should generally have the same idea, especially when we're working from the same source text, but it might look a little bit different, and that's okay. The main thing is we want the students to remember what they read so they can organize their thoughts and then put it into their own paragraph. Yes?
If they're looking to make something like summer home, do they still put a comma between summer and the picture of the home? If it's
Yes, they should. If they're going to put 2 words down there, yes. And some of the students might, instead of writing the word summer, they might put a sunshine. So they have some fun with this too, as long as it doesn't turn into the art project. Okay, let's jump down to sentence number 6. And the reason I want to jump down to sentence number 6 is because one of the most challenging parts of the paragraph for the students seem to be the topic clincher. So the topic sentence for right now is going to be sentence number 1. It's going to kind of sum up what that whole paragraph is going to be about. So in 3rd grade especially, we're going to keep topic sentence at 1. The clincher is sentence number 6, so the very last sentence of the paragraph that kind of wraps it up. But the key with the topic clincher is that those 2 sentences must have 2 or 3 of the same key words. So as we read sentence number 6, sea turtle enthusiasts work to preserve these fascinating creatures. We not only have to pull out the important words from sentence 6, but we also have to make sure that when we're writing, 2 to 3 of those words in line 1 and line 6 are the same or very, very similar. So what words do you see from sentence 6 would match sentence 1, those keywords? Sea turtles, definitely. Fascinating.
creatures and species?
So that could very easily work as that third keyword if you needed them. But 2 is sufficient as well. So this is what it could look like when you're finished. Turtles generally don't look like that after the kids have drawn them, but as long as they remember what they've drawn, that's absolutely fine. I know it's a lot of information. Teachers are always available to answer those questions. So please let us know how we can help. Are there any last questions about the KWO that I can answer? Okay, then I'm going to turn it over to the next portion to Mrs. Coyle.
Good morning. I am Kelly Coyle. I am the 5th grade teacher, or one of the 5th grade teachers, and I teach ELA. So my piece of it, pretty much up to what you said, looks very much the same. We structure it the same way. Obviously it was taught in 3rd, it's reinforced in 4th, and we reinforce it again in 5th. The only slight difference that 5th and possibly 4th might do is that with this keyword outline, because the title is Sea Turtle, in those upper grade levels, we might not use the word sea turtle for a keyword in those sentences, because in that 4th or 5th grade level, we have so many important keywords, the sentences get a lot longer, that we want to save that valuable space. So if they had written their title as sea turtles, we probably wouldn't use, for line number 1, we'd probably stick with the picture because that's fine. And on 6, it has the picture too. But we would caution the children not to say sea turtle or anything like that again in all the other sentences, just because we want to leave that valuable space for a different keyword, if that makes sense. Right? But really the part that I'm up here to talk about is the next part, sentence starters. You'll also hear them called sentence openers. And why we use sentence starters or sentence openers is really to vary our writing. A lot of students will just get in the habit of writing their sentences. Sorry, let me back up for a second. After the keyword outline, that's when we have, like Ms. Miller said, we put the source document away. We have this keyword outline that looks like this. What do? Okay. Then we take this, we have the students take out white line paper, we have them skip lines, and we say, okay, please write your rough draft using only this. We don't like them to go back to the source document because we want to make sure that they're not plagiarizing. We want them to use their own words. So they would take these sentences and they would turn them back, they would take these keywords and turn them back into full sentences using their own language. Okay. They have a lot of practice with this stage. But then we get to the point where they do have a rough draft. And so once they have a rough draft, and here's a one for you, magically appears. Here's a rough draft. And then we start to talk about sentence openers or sentence starters. And when a student will start to write those beginning parts of their sentence, you get a lot of the turtle or the creature or he did, she did. There's not a lot of variation. So IEW has introduced sentence openers, sentence starters to vary the way that they start their sentences. And so in 3rd, and if we go back a little bit, you notice these are the list of sentence openers that you can have. You'll notice the grade levels next to them. In 3rd, 4th, and 5th, we're just doing 1 and 2. The rest of them are for the older grades. Okay. So we have subject openers and prepositional phrase openers. And subject openers are what it sounds like. It's the subject. So when you start your sentence with a subject like sea turtles, then they would label that subject opener, and they would label it with, the kids like to call it a hashtag number 1. We know it as the number sign. And so if you look at this rough draft, can you possibly see where I might have a subject opener? Can you find a sentence that starts with a subject? the loggerhead turtle. So, and students, it's not a subject, but we give that kids those freedom to say it counts. So if it says the and then loggerhead, that's your subject, then we say yes, you can use that as a subject opener. Another one would be that last sentence where it says turtle. Turtle is a subject. So I was trying to do fancy with my tech, so we would have them label turtle with the number 1. We would label the loggerhead turtle with a number 1 as well. The next type of sentence opener is a prepositional opener, and just like it says, it starts with a preposition. So going back to Shirley Grammar, going for your list to find your list of prepositions, and I know we're a little rusty with grammar, or some of us might be. Can anyone find a sentence that starts with a preposition? What is it?
In Georgia during the summer.
Yep, the first one. In is a preposition. So we would label it with a #2, $2, and there's a couple more. In late spring, and during, that space kind of gave it away. The number 2 as well. So when the students are asked to do openers, they're not asked to label all these sentences. They only need to have one subject opener and one prepositional opener per paragraph. Okay, so you only need one number 1 and one number 2. Okay. The other way that we have our students vary our writing is called dress-ups. Dress-ups is a fancy way of saying make your writing more interesting. But with IEW, it gives them criteria, it gives them rules to fall back on, it gives them specific things to look for. Okay, we want them to add variety and style to their writing, and this is really important to do in those upper grade levels, and to understand what dress-ups are. Okay. So you'll notice again, this is our list of dress-ups, and grades 3, 4, and 5 both have quality adjective and a strong verb. So quality adjective, just making sure that if you're saying fascinating turtles, fascinating could be underlined as your quality adjective. A lot of the students in the 4th and 5th grade level still try to use words like amazing or good, good turtle, amazing turtle. And then at the 4th and 5th grade level, we have banned words. So we ban the use of good or amazing because we want to stretch their minds to think of more creative quality adjectives. Okay. And so if you're helping your student and they say, well, Mom, that's a banned word, just know what they mean by a banned word. Okay. Strong verb, grades 3, 4, and 5. And again, instead of talked, the students lectured using a much stronger verb form, okay? Again, to vary their writing so that it's not all he talked, he said, he spoke, just to get more style. Okay? So grades 4 and 5 is when grades 4 is when we introduce the ly word. It's an adverb, and so just like you saw in the paragraph, it was earlier. Now I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was in Shirley Grammar, that's what it was. How did they do something? They did it quickly. We want to add that ly word into the paragraph because it gives more information. It makes your sentence meatier and more interesting. And then in 4th and 5th, 4th continues with the who, which clause. And the who, which clause, it's adding extra information in your sentence. So if I said the turtle, which had a hard shell, we add that phrase which when it's an animal or a thing, and we add the word who when it's a person that we're talking about. Okay? My teacher who loves reading gave us a new book. Do you see how that clause in the middle, who loves reading, gives more information about that teacher? It adds interest to that sentence. And then in 5th grade, I have the pleasure of doing what we like to call wwasia.b. Now that is not a link, and every year the students are, but can we click on it and can we see what happens? Nothing happens. Okay. I do it every year. Please, please, please. Sure, nothing happens. But it's our little way of remembering subordinate clauses. It stands for when, while, where, as, sure, since, if, although, because. It's using one of those words to put in the middle of your sentence to, again, add variety, stretch those sentences, add information. So I could say, and I take that back. It's not even just in the middle of the sentence. We give the students freedom to add it at the beginning of the sentence as well, or at the end of the sentence. Just because the www.asia.b is very new, and it's our most complicated dress up, and while it's introduced in 5th grade and we really work with it, they're still learning. So we let them have some freedom of where they're putting that subordinate clause, at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end. We give them that okay. In the middle school, it might look a little bit different, but for elementary, that's where we sit. So for the subordinate clause, I could add it at the beginning. When the turtle crawled, we watched quietly. Adding a little bit more information. So here is my rough draft. And just for our purposes, I went ahead and I added them in. And so you'll still see my hashtag number 1 and my hashtag number 2. They didn't go away. Although I did change them because when I was working on my dress ups, I originally had the opener somewhere else, but because I then changed my sentences around with adding my dress ups, I needed to then go back and tweak my where my openers were. And you'll see that sometimes. Just because you started with the openers, boys and girls love to start with the openers first. They deem those the easiest. And so they'll put those right away in their writing. But sometimes when you add the dress ups, things get changed around, and we encourage the students to be flexible to change it around. It's a working document. So I went ahead, and you'll see, and this is what we require of 4th and 5th grade. Again, 5th grade only has that www.asia.b, but you'll see on the screen in the column, in the notepad, that you need to have 1 per paragraph. So I still have the number 1 and the number 2, but I also have a quality adjective, sunny Georgia. I have my strong verb, journey, back. I don't know if you can see my cursor. I have my ly, quickly, swim. I have my who, which. The loggerhead turtle, which is known for its large head, is the most common kind. And then I have my www.asia.b, where in late spring, the journey back to Georgia because the weather starts to warm up. Okay? There was a few more that were added, but please know, just to show you where they could also be, but please know they only need to have 1 per paragraph. Okay. Any questions? I think I covered it. With the quality adjective, strong verb, ly, those are what, again, the students deem the easiest. It gets a little trickier when it's the who, which, and the www.asia.b. I encourage you to reach out to your teachers. 4th and 5th grade, where those are our domains, those last 2, please reach out to us. We definitely have reference documents on our Google Classrooms for you to view, but also just reach out to us. Your students are learning it, we're helping them, and we will help you right along with them as well. So don't hesitate to reach out and ask us. I think that's it.
Do we have this sample under the resource tab? This one?
This particular one, we can, are you gonna send the slides? We can send the slides, and so you can see where they are. And then in your notes as well, it has a list of the dress ups too. So if you want to understand what each of the dress ups is really asking, what the definition of each dress up is, along with some of the examples are in there as well. So, gonna invite up Miss Craig.
There's an app that has some of this information in there, so you can always use the app if you need help. But I don't want to send you to one more place. So we're your main resource, but just know this is available. I think that's all for that. Okay, there we go.
Good morning, I'm Meredith Craig. I teach 4th grade here. And so now that we've kind of looked at the structure, I wanted to walk you through probably the part that parents honestly ask the most questions about, which is how do I help my child? Because the reason you're here at Liberty Prep where you have 2 homeschool days a week is because you want to help your child. So hopefully I can help clarify that a little bit for you. So when we edit, now that your student has made the keyword outline and then they took the outline and they turned it into a paragraph, we have a whole process for how do they strengthen their writing.
So the dress ups is part of the editing process. Most of the time they don't put dress ups in as they write their rough draft, because the goal of our rough drafts is just to get thoughts on paper. So we say, just take the keywords, let it flow. It's okay if you misspell things in your rough draft, if you forget some periods along the way, we're gonna go back and edit those. Just put your thoughts on paper. So dress ups come when we edit. The editing process, we actually have the students edit first. And so it's really neat. I just gave them their red pen in 4th grade, and they're excited that they kind of get to grade themselves. They get to be their own teacher first. And I do have picture examples that I'll show you in a moment, but they go through and they look for, can I find anywhere that I know I should have put a capital letter, but I was in a hurry and so I didn't, and they can fix it themselves. And it gives them that little confident moment of, I do know what I'm doing. Or if they misspelled a word and they know they misspelled it, but they still don't know how to spell it, and maybe the teacher can't come to them, we just tell them, circle it with your red pen. Either I will get to you if I have time while I'm conferencing today, and if I don't, you show that one to your parents. And you say, I'm pretty sure I didn't get this one right. Can you spell that for me? And parents can jump in and help there. So they'll edit first in their red. Parents at home will give you a parent editor job, but we do ask that you avoid the red pen, because the rough draft, by the end, it should be messy, it should be kind of colorful, and really it shows all the conversations that happened between us and your child and between you and your child. So we can see, where did they need your help? It's not a bad thing that they needed your help. We just like to see, where was it, so that we can help there too. So we ask that you use blue or black, usually because if we're conferencing, we'll pick a totally different color. I might come around with green or pink if I'm conferencing with students, and so my notes will look different from theirs and from yours. We do ask you at home days that you do go through and you look for that spelling and that grammar piece, because while we would love to conference fully one-on-one with every student, we don't have time in our 3 days a week here to make it to every child for a full edit. So we'll ask you, we'll give you directions and say, hey, will you help them fix any spelling, fix any grammar, talk to them as you do it, make it an out loud conversation too, and say, hey, I'm gonna fix the way that you spelled because you got the A and the U switched. Remember, the A comes before the U. And so that way you're just teaching them, you're coaching them as you go. We do also ask, as you edit, that you let the content of the writing stay the same. We still want to hear their voice in it, just like you want to hear their voice, right? They're your child, and we love the way they phrase things and they say things. So we want the content to remain the same. With that note though, if you read your child's writing and you're like, wow, every sentence sounds kind of the same, I wish they would, rearrange some words a little bit. Like, there are ways that this could sound better. Can I help them with that? Yes, you can. We just ask that you, again, do it on the paper in that color so we can see, oh, here's where their parents stepped in and said, hey, these sentences all sound kind of the same. What if you move this piece up here? And it's gonna add a little more color to your writing. And then we see that conversation written on paper, and it lets us know where your child needed help and that you were able to teach them that on your home day, which is really neat. Because we're asking you to keep the content the same, we do ask that by the time the rough draft is all messy and colorful, that then when they do their final copy, the final copy should be neat and clean, whether it's handwritten in 3rd grade and some in 4th, whether it's typed by the time we get to essays. All the wording and all the edits and the fixes should match that rough draft, the big colorful we marked all over it rough draft. So to kind of show you what that looks like, your student rough draft, I didn't do the whole turtle paragraph. I was afraid if I did, you wouldn't be able to read it because it would shrink too much on there. But you might see a rough draft like this come home. This is your child getting thoughts on paper. You might notice if you're trying to read through it, there's a few things misspelled in there. There's some letters that should be capitalized. That's just where they start because they're putting thoughts on paper. Then we give them their red pen in class and we say, hey, go for it. What can you find? Is there something that you go, oh, I knew that, I can take my time and fix it now. So you might find that they remembered, oh, Georgia does start with a capital, it's a state name, and they fixed that themselves. Or you notice the word fascinating. Maybe they tried sounding that one out and they're going, I still don't think it looks right, and Miss Craig is busy, or my teacher is busy because she's helping someone else. I'm gonna circle it, and I'm gonna ask my parents about that one. Or if Miss Craig can get to me, I'll ask her about that one. The underlining, I realized I probably should have done the draft a little bit different after listening to Ms. Coyle. Sometimes students will find that as they were free writing, they did use dress ups. Sometimes they're like, oh, that was accidental. I didn't mean to use an LY word, but I did. And they'll go back and they'll find it and underline it and say, I've already got that dress up done. Sometimes though, on edit days, we'll say, hey, go back and look. did you use a quality adjective? And maybe they read the whole thing and they go, no, I don't think I did this time. I was just getting my thoughts on paper. So you might see the little caret mark in their red pen where they added a quality adjective and they underlined it, or they added their strong verb and they underlined it. So that's another thing you might see. So hopefully by the time the draft comes home to you for editing, it looks kind of like this one, and your child's already made their best effort to fix what they can, starting to take responsibility for their voice and their growth. Then maybe you get a hold of it and you go, okay, like I see some places that we can improve. Let me talk to you about that. And so you notice, hey, it's a paragraph. Remember, you have to indent. So you just make them a little note there in your pen so that when they get to their final copy, they'll remember to push that first line over just a little bit. You might fix the spelling that they circled. Parents tend to be a little stronger on comma usage than our students do, even in 5th grade. So if you're noticing, I feel like you paused here, so that should be a comma, go ahead and put it in. Personally, as a mom, when I do it for my sons, I circle the punctuation fixes that I make, otherwise they don't see them when they're copying it over into their final copy. So I just found that as a mom, that was a helpful trick for me to draw their attention to, hey, don't forget you need a comma here. You forgot to put a period here. I did do one rephrasing on here, so you'll notice the big squiggly arrow. So I took one of the well-written sentences and sort of rearranged it to a way a kid might if they're just getting the thoughts on. So it says, sea turtles quickly swim when the months get cold to the warm tropics. And maybe you read that and you go, I feel like there's a better way to say that. What if you take this part that says, when the months get cold, and you start your sentence that way? And so that way it just, maybe it flows a little bit better. You can ask your child, and if they say, yeah, you're right, that does sound better, you can box it in or circle it and draw a little arrow and say, hey, when you get to your final copy, maybe move that piece right here. And then it makes your sentence sound a little bit stronger. And then when Ms. Coyle mentioned banned words, I did put one of our 4th grade banned words in this one. When we get to verbs, we tell them we don't want them to use the word go. We want them to look for something more creative than go. And maybe you spotted one, or maybe your child realized it and they said, I know I'm not supposed to use go, but I couldn't think of a better word at the moment. And they're really struggling with that one dress up. So maybe what you could do is say, all right, let me think of some other ideas, and I'm gonna write them on your paper in my pen, and then how about you pick one that you think really makes your sentence shine, and you circle it, and that can be the one you use. It's not giving your child the answers, it's helping your child grow. If they are struggling and you provide them with options, you're helping them see, oh, there are ways I can think through this and do this. And you're allowing them the freedom then to choose and take that little bit of ownership. Sure, the words originated from you, but then they're getting to choose. I think this one sounds best in my sentence. Thanks for your help, Mom. And they'll pick that one and put it in their final copy. So you might pick travel, wander, journey. The one that was in the one that Ms. Coyle showed you was journey, so that's the one I had, the student pick with their red pen and go with. So we know you want to be able to help your child. We love when you help your child. We will specifically ask in facts that you do help your child with the editing piece. And so I just wanted to kind of hopefully give some clarification for how can you best do that. To allow them to have their voice, but also teach them, here's how you can make it stronger. Do you have any questions on how you can help your kiddos edit? Yeah.
Practically speaking, is this like sitting next to each other at the dining room table and just walking through it together?
As a mom,
Yeah.
yes. I've had a couple kids go through elementary school already. I've got 2 middle schoolers this year. And writing does happen when we sit side by side. If they need me to edit, I don't let them wander away from me and be like, Mom, you're supposed to edit this. And then they go off to do something else. Because I want it to be that conversation. So I say, okay, you sit here with me. And if I find a misspelled word, I'll be like, oh, it was turtles that got you this time. Like the R and the T should be switched. You remember that? Can you hear it? And I'll write it and show them. And they're like, oh, I knew that, thanks. And I have boys, that's how they phrase things. But that's how you can best help them. And so go through the whole thing with them, and then up to you if you put it back in to have them turn it in, or if you say, all right, it's done, where are you supposed to put it now? Go ahead and tuck it away for tomorrow. Any other questions? Thank you.
Your teachers are an amazing resource, and they want to help you, and they want to partner with you, so don't hesitate to reach out. They're here to ask. Again, kind of like Shirley, it has its own language, it has its own strategies and structures, and that's why we hold this training, and we're always happy to help. So reach out to the teacher and ask your student, what did your teacher say about this? You know, and we'll try to provide resources that the teachers can put under the tab so that we can give you whatever you need. But we know your kid's going to be successful with this. They do a great job. It's amazing what they produce. And IEW, the structures provided in that really help, and the teachers are just great. So you've gotten a lot today. You probably need to go for a walk or something to let it kind of like soak in. The good news is you're not going to do all of this tomorrow, right? They're not at this point yet. In third grade, they will start by just teaching them the KWO, and I'm not even sure that starts for another couple weeks. So you have a little bit of time to let it soak in. You've got these reference documents to go back to when they do start doing it. You're like, okay, that was 2 weeks ago. You know, what was that again? You've got these to go back to as examples. Okay? But yeah,
So the peak sheet is for first and second grade.
they do that up through fifth. Yes.
To make
Yeah.
fourth grader really good.
Yes, yes. So the teachers know when they have somebody new coming in that, and actually, they know that they need a little bit of help. The other thing I'll tell you is all the books from first grade all the way to fifth grade start with pattern 1. Okay? So the words may be a little longer because obviously what a first grader can read versus what a fourth grader can read in a sentence are different, but they all start in pattern 1. So it's just going to go a little faster. It'll get to pattern 2 sooner because it was introduced at the end of second grade. So, and then I think they get to pattern 3 by the end of the year. So, but it's still going to start with pattern